Now, as mentioned before the ad break, Sheffield United have taken a 1-0 lead against 10-man Newcastle. They've just scored a penalty, 76 minutes left on the clock. One of 3 games this evening in the Premier League. Wolves host Everton at 8:15. Burnley host Manchester United at 8:15. We can get team news from Turf Moor now from Peter Smith.
2 changes for each manager from their previous Premier League selections. For Burnley, Johan Berg Gudmundsson and Eric Peters are restored, with Charlie Taylor out injured and Eric Peters dropping to the bench. For United, Edison Cavani is straight back in following his 3-game ban. Nemanja Vidic wins a recall, with Fred and Scott McTominay amongst the United substitutes. At Turf Moor, it's Burnley against Manchester United.
Yeah, so it looks like something of a 4-3-3 for Manchester United. Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire and Eric Bailly is back in alongside Maguire. And then we'll have Matic and Pogba and Fernandes with Martial and Rashford either side of Edinson Cavani. And we'll see how things go. Pat Nevin, good evening.
How are you doing, old boy? Are you well?
I'm not so bad. By the way, as an aside, I wanted to just check this. Does the Scottish FA rumble from one crisis to another?
Only on days ending with a Y. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, is it the IFA you've got over there?
FAI, yeah.
FAI, yeah.
We are bad.
And I know it's kind of laughed at a lot as well. And every time I hear it, I think, should try the SFA, mate.
Right, okay. I'll take your word for it. I mean, the latest in our kind of sorry history is that Damien Duff has walked away from the Irish coaching ticket, enraged, it would seem, at an investigation launched last year into a quote-unquote anti-English video which Stephen Kenny played before a match at Wembley, which was somehow leaked and found its way into the UK version of the Daily Mail, and the FAI immediately launched an urgent investigation which turned out to amount to nothing. Stephen Kenny talked about forces around not exactly helping the team. We thought it had drifted into nothing, and now last couple of days Damien Duff has left the coaching ticket ahead of World Cup qualification, and no real reasons publicly given as to why, but everything I've told you is what's in all the papers. FAI not saying very much. Oh, and of course the taxpayer bailed them out earlier this year. They're completely bankrupt. So I'm just wondering, like, we're all just paying attention to our own associations, but I think ours beats yours.
What's your youth development like?
Oh, it's a disaster, and it's going to be a disaster for the next decade because we are bankrupt.
Right, okay. We haven't got one. So yours may be a disaster, but we just get rid of ours, right?
So that's all we do. Ship them over to England. That's the plan.
Yeah. So, to be honest, it's kind of tough slightly. I mean, I'll take you years back, right? Something happened when I was a chief exec at Motherwell. And if you're chief exec, you're basically on all the committees, of which I have limited knowledge of. But I was immediately seconded onto the youth development committee. And the first thing I said, can I see the accounts? And they said, oh, yeah, eventually, yeah. And I said, I'd like to see them now. Second thing, could you tell me how the structure of the organisation works? You know, like most structures of most organisations, kind of pyramid or whatever, they all work up. That's what business management's like. They said, no, we couldn't get you that. And I said, well, why not? I said, well, it doesn't exist. I said, well, it must exist. Everyone must know who they kind of have to talk to. And no, it doesn't exist. It can't be done. I've never known an organisation, Facebook, Google, they could give you a structure, whatever kind of chart you want to use, but they couldn't do it. It was apparently impossible. And my first meeting, they used to get this monies in from UEFA for, qualifications and all that sort of thing. They used to get a couple of million a year. And I said, well, where does that money go? In youth development. And they went, well, we give 30,000 to them and 20,000 to them and 30,000, and nobody got any money right. And I was saying, well, what's that money going on? No idea. If they'd have saved it for 3 years, they could have got indoor facilities for the whole of Scotland in about 10 years. But they didn't, they frittered it away. And I followed one of the trails, and this is brilliant, to where the money was going at this small club who shall remain nameless. What they spent their youth team money on? A new bar for the chairman's office. So, trust me, it's everywhere.
It seems to be. So Manchester United then, we haven't spoken in a while. Their 2-0 defeat to Man City, both goals conceded through set pieces. Even though that was a defeat and maybe just a slight reality check, they weren't outplayed to the extent, I would put it to you, that shatters their momentum in any great way. No,
I don't think they're over concerned about it. You don't like losing in a derby game, obviously, but City have on some pretty good form, and their display against Chelsea was their best I've seen this season. I thought they were absolutely magnificent in that game against Chelsea. But then they look as if they're now on their roll, and it's been waiting for a little while for that to happen. So I don't think United will get too over concerned about that. I think they're on a decent run just now, not losing a lot of games, not losing a lot of goals either, and they just look strong and powerful, and also with options. You didn't have options before. You just thought, oh, who's going to do a job for us? And in actual fact, you look at it now and you think, yeah, pretty comfortable with the way that looks just now. I think it looks good, probably slightly better than I thought it would be. But I never thought they were in a particularly bad position anyway. There was a lot of crisis management shouting going along. I kind of wasn't buying into that. I thought they were a decent team that just had to settle down in a weird season. And I think they have settled down. They look pretty good now.
Yeah. Their record against Burnley, especially at Turf Moor, is very, very good. So they've won their last 4 matches at Turf Moor. Burnley haven't even scored in the last 5 matches against United at Turf Moor, and they are 0 for 8 against United when it comes to wins. So all of that points towards this not being a massive banana skin. Burnley have only scored 9 league goals. Only Sheffield United have fewer. So everything is pointing towards United making fairly short work of this evening.
It's never easy against them. I mean, Sean Dyche organises them incredibly well, so it's always tough. But what Burnley are sometimes very good at, they're not just a long ball team. Nearly scored the second goal there, very close, Brewster. But they use their physique and their power. Actually, that's not really going to work that well against Manchester United, because they certainly have got plenty of physique and power. So you're going to have to try something else against them. So I just think, oddly enough, there's certain teams that Burnley can do a number on, or over the years have been set up to do a number on. I don't think they're particularly set up to do a number in the way Manchester United are and the physical capacity that they've got. So you're right, anything can happen. You know that Dyche is quite capable, but is this one that looks like a banana skin? No, it doesn't at the moment. But hey, anyone who makes predictions this year is a fool. So I predict Bernard. That old one.
Cavani's back in this evening. He starts. He's got Martial and Rashford either side of him. I think he's made a big impression on Manchester United fans. The intelligence, the craft in the box, maybe something they were missing, especially against teams liable to pack the bus. And he has scored some big goals as well. Is Cavani, who many might have expected was just being bought as an elderly statesman, is he still looking of a calibre to you to be, starting striker for United for this season at least?
Do you know the odd thing? Remember there was a period watching him, and I very fortunately was able to go over to Paris and watch him a few times with one of my other jobs and doing commentaries. And maybe it was just a flip, but every time I saw him, he missed so many chances. His conversion rate with good chances was absolutely useless.
Right. And
I kept on thinking, look, everyone talks about this guy, and yeah, he's good, but he's not that good. And there was another guy like that many years before, and everyone's kind of wiped this from the brain now, right? But there was a period that everybody used to say that about Zlatan, right? He'd come and play against English teams, and he would have a stinker every time, and we couldn't kind of get it. There's some players you need to watch quite regularly, and I think Cavani's one of them. And what you're talking about there, the intelligence, the movement, the work ethic, and the attitude that the Manchester United really needed. I think he shows it brilliantly. He's another one of those guys, when you see him week in, week out, he's just a far better player than you thought he was. Yeah. Remember somebody saying that to me, and you have to play with players sometimes to understand really how good they are, and it's absolutely true to some degree. But watching them really regularly makes a difference. And to be fair, when you look at him and Thiago Silva as well, you just thought, well, I knew they were quite good. And then you watch them for a while and you think, actually, I understand why people called them world-class when they were at their best.
Yes, I think a lot of people are in that boat at the moment with Cavani. Like even the goal he scored, the last-minute header against Southampton at the end of November, where it's brilliant movement, and I think his movement dictates the ball in, and he finishes the header beautifully. I mean, there was, again, to use that same word, there was such craft about it that you don't really see from Rashford and Martial, who are just, all raw ability and and you know, kind of so many brilliant tools that you feel they're not maximising. But like that kind of movement is not Cavani's movement. That's not something United fans are seeing from other players in the same way.
Yeah, there's a direct. Well, obviously, Rashford does an amazing directness, which is fabulous on its own, and Martial's got his own specific stuff. But oddly enough, I think Cavani's a footballer. You know, because you know, and also a fan. You think, actually, yeah, you're doing all the right things there. You're actually moving in the right ways. You aren't doing any stupid runs into daft places that don't make any sense. If you make a run, there's a good reason for it, and you can see why. I think he's one of those players that certainly Bruno Fernandes is going to love playing with him, you know, because he will make those moves, and he will love it, and they will have understandings without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, Bruno will do that sort of thing with, you know, a guy who just pins his earbacks and goes. He will do that anyway. But a guy who makes intelligent movement like he does, I think you'll love playing with him. So that's another reason why you want to stick him up there. And the other thing is, he is quite selfless. You know, for a centre-forward, yes, he'll score a decent amount of goals and a good amount of goals, but he will actually do the selfless work for the others probably won't do. And I think Ole probably looks at that and thinks, can that work? Can that kind of rub off on others around him? And there's a kind of wee bit of me that's beginning to see that rubbing off on one or two others who are, you know, Martial's working a wee bit harder. He's never noted for being the hardest worker. But even Paul Pogba, saw him the other day, played a ball and made a move, you know, in the space. Wow. And he hasn't been doing that for a while. So he's, as you say, he's starting tonight in that centre midfield with Matic. So it'll be interesting to see how they work together. And, you know, back to Burnley, with the physicality of that group, Burnley aren't going to muscle them.
Yeah, United's away form. They're the only unbeaten side in the Premier League away from home, but the foundation for it is very clear. They've scored 21 goals away from home, which is the best in the league. They haven't managed to keep a clean sheet yet. So Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Eric Bailly this time with Maguire, and Wan-Bissaka. It still just feels like they're kind of not getting away with it, but it doesn't feel like championship winning back four. The Bailly-Lindelof discussion has broken out, but even Kevin Doyle was on the show after the Man City game last week, Pat, and you know, he came on after watching the game and he said, I watched that back four and they just play as individuals. He's like, I'd love a defensive coach to get in there and mould them somehow, because it still doesn't feel right or look right back there.
It's kind of okay. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I look more at the fullbacks, to be honest, because these days when you're looking at fullbacks, you're thinking, right, okay, what else are you going to give us? You know, we are all thinking, what else are you going to give us? And although Shaw, you know, the earlier part of his career, he was getting down the line much more and, you know, putting in fantastic crosses much more than he is just now. And I hold to this day, Wan-Bissaka is one of the worst crossers in the league. But the rest of his game's very good. So it's okay. But when you're looking at Liverpool and when you're looking at Manchester City and others, I mean, they're getting people coming from those areas. And they're going to give you 10, 15, 20 goals a season from that area, just from, you know, really good quality balls in. Kind of not looking like you're seeing almost as much as that from, you know, the Manchester United fullback. So that side of it is maybe the manager wants them to be more, you know, static and central and, you know, keep a little bit tight, but you kind of expect a wee bit more because it is Manchester United. And Manchester United, you expect that sort of thing. So if they were flying up and they were losing a load of, you know, not a load of goals, but enough goals, you'd put up with it because they're giving you something else going that way. But I'm just not sure their fullbacks, to the standard that others are doing that. But you're right, it's always Maguire and another, or and two or three others. And for all the stick Maguire has got at various points, he still is the one, isn't he? He's still the central one, and he'll continue to be so.
Yeah. I was absent-mindedly watching Sky Sports News the other day. It was on mute. That's when you know you're not spending a morning very well, I think. Muted Sky Sports News. I think that's when it's time to go, So it just had all the various stats for the Premier League, you know, most goals, then it was most assists, then it was, you know, passing stats, then it was chances created. The only player who was in the top 5 in all of them was Bruno Fernandes. And he just jumped out a mile. Like, Harry Kane wasn't in the top goals. He was up there for top assists, such as Harry Kane these days. But Bruno Fernandes, since he joined United, they've scored 63 Premier League goals. He has scored 19 of them and he's had 14 assists. So basically more than half of the goals United have scored are down to Bruno. Look, we've talked at length about him, but I kind of was sitting there watching muted Sky Sports News and I was thinking, Like, what is his outstanding quality? You know what I mean? Like, if you were a scout and you rang up and said, you've got to sign this guy, the first question would be, well, like, what is he? What is it that makes him so unmarkable, so outstanding, so brilliant?
There's lots of things he's very, very good at. Ooh, we just missed another chance. He should be 3-0 up just now.
Sheffield United, still 1-0.
Yeah, still 1-0. Brewster again, who misses the chance. To be honest, again, as an ex-player, I look upon it as, I'm looking for something that you do that makes me really quite surprised. That you spotted it, you had the awareness to see it, you had the timing to do something that's different from everyone else. And that is it. It's not, yes, he's good at free kicks, yes, he's good at penalty kicks, yes, he's good at, he'll thread a pass, all that sort of stuff. But his timing of releasing passes is very weird. It's very different from most people. Because, it never seems to, when the ball comes to him at pace, he never seems to stop, take it at, slow it down, take a touch, play it the other direction. He manipulates his body to flick it around, and he's off. Now, everyone else has taken another second or two to do that. He's done it, and he's moved. Now, if you're a defender, you've put yourself in the position to stop what a normal player would do, because that's what they all do. So you put yourself there. He then does that, you're gone. You've lost it. You've half fouled the ball, he's gone the other way. And he does it as quickly as, well, he does it quicker than any player in the league. Right. And I kind of do think that's even more than De Bruyne. Right. But De Bruyne's got other skills that he hasn't got to that level. So I'm not saying he's better than Kevin De Bruyne by any manner of means. But in that one specific area of skill, I'm not sure I know that many that in the British game over the last few decades have had what he's specifically got. So if you're watching him and the balls are coming into him and you see him play a good ball, we all go, yeah, that was a good ball. No, re-look at it and think, what would somebody else have done there? And they usually have taken a touch or turned around or not quite got it on target. He kind of swivels, pivots and moves the other way before anyone else has considered it. And it doesn't look like one of the obvious things, but nobody else is doing it anywhere close to him. And it's creating massive amounts of space. And the big thing is, he does it in the last third. And that's the hardest place to do it because there's so little space. That's, for me, my favourite thing about him. And I was at a game when they played Everton a while back, and I was just honestly gasping at what he was doing time and again. I just thought, wow, how few players do I know have ever been able to do that to that level? So that for me is his thing.
Yeah, OK. Well, I'll keep an eye out for that. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Before you go, two quick things. Can you tell Pat Nevin he was correct about Kieran Tierney? Phenomenal, says Gareth. Yeah. You can be smug about that one.
Yeah, to be honest, wasn't difficult. I'd watched him for a long time. I just thought, I mean, and the odd thing is, the abuse I took when I was saying, I love Robertson, but he's a better player than Robertson, and people are going, that's dreadful. And yeah. But it's not about stats, it's about footballer, and he's spectacular. I honestly think that if I had a choice to buy a fullback in European football, I'd probably take him.
Right.
Above anything.
And then before we go, I want to bring people team news. Wolves against Everton. Here's Alex Winter.
Two changes for Wolves in the FA Cup victory over Crystal Palace here on Friday. Rui Patricio is back in goal in place of John Ruddy, and Morgan Gibbs-White, recalled from his loan at Swansea last week, starts in place of Adama Traore. There's 5 changes for Everton from the side who got past Rotherham in the Cup. Pickford, Mina, Sigurdsson, Holgate and Doucouré all return, but there's no obvious striker for the Toffees, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, their leading goal scorer, injured. It's Wolves against Everton at Molineux.
Quick final word on this one, Pat. For Everton, they're in 7th, but really they're on the same number of points as Spurs and Man City and Southampton, so still having a very good season.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one for Everton today. They're going 3-4-3 today, which is a real shock because they've actually got some strikers, particularly Tosin, who scored at the weekend on the bench. So it's a little bit of a surprise. They look really physical tonight, Everton. I mean, they look like the old dogs of war, Everton, tonight. And if you look at the forward line of Wolves, we've got Gibbs-White, beautiful player, love him. Fabio Silva, 18, and will be a great player, and Neto. So there's not a lot of power up there. So I think old Carlo's decided, let's out-muscle them tonight.
He's a pragmatist as well, isn't he?
Oh, when he has to be.
All righty. So listen, we will talk on Monday evening, I suspect, Manchester United at Anfield Sunday, and the league will have taken a bit of shape then. So Pat Nevin, until then, thank you.
See you then. Take care.
football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. Gambling care.